Hi, my name's Matt, and I'm here to talk about health and nutrition and the services that we at Optimal Lactation provide in health and nutrition. I'm going to kick it off with a statement. The first part of this is going to seem very hard-hitting and quite a negative approach, but I'm going to start telling you how we kind of get round or improve these issues. We currently live in the most developed, easiest time to live ever. And yet stress-related degenerative mutative conditions and obesity are higher and striking younger and younger. That's a dividing statement, and you're probably thinking one of three things. Probably nodding in agreement, and you kind of thinking, well, yeah, let's get in this. Let's put a stop to all these problems, and like let's move on, and let's find a way, and along those lines. Or you're thinking of excuses. Right now you're thinking of excuses or reasons for why what I've just said is wrong. All right? You're probably thinking, well, no, we've got lots of problems going on. The world isn't great, and it's difficult, and this is difficult, and it's wrong what you're saying there, and no, these things aren't getting worse, and when you're kind of coming up with these reasons, excuses why, but you kind of know deep down that it's true, and that's why you're looking for these reasons why. And there's lots of reasons why. You can keep coming up with them all day, but generally it all comes down to the same thing, that it's hard hitting, but it's true. Finally, you're thinking, what has that got to do with us? And I want you to stick with me, and I'll explain why. Disease and pain are always the extreme progressions of our problems. So maybe we're a little bit overweight, or maybe our performance isn't quite there, or maybe we're feeling a little bit down every so often, and maybe we've got slight little kind of tummy problems, and then you kind of look further and further along the lines of not kind of addressing those issues, and disease and pain encounter. So they start to come about. Let's have a look at some stats. So obesity is on the increase. 24.8% of adults are obese. 61.7% are overweight or obese. Lower back pain is the number one leading cause of disability, and it costs the NHS £2.1 billion per year. It costs the UK economy £10 billion per year. Massive amount. The average adult spends less than 1 hour a day in nature. The average adult picks up the phone 85 times per day. And we are the only animal that doesn't know what we are meant to eat. We are lost, and the animals that we look after, we kind of feed them foods sometimes that they shouldn't eat because we're making those choices. But we are lost. We have forgotten our nature, and we've forgotten our habitat, and we've forgotten what we're meant to be eating. So, health and nutrition. The reason why it's health and nutrition and not just nutrition is that nutrition on its own will not address the full thing. It may make you look slightly better, it may make you start feeling slightly better, but on its own it can't create the fix, because what food does and what good nutrition does is donate electrons, and it makes electrons work better, and it kind of fires electrons around, and it kind of helps all these things. But if one of the other sides isn't with that, then it just doesn't work as well, or it stops working. You might still get other problems, and things aren't working whole, and you're always thinking, why is this not working? Why is this not quite fully working? Because we've got to look at other things. We've got to look at light, we've got to look at environment, we've got to look at mind, and we've got to look at movement. Now, in the health and nutrition program we set up, we mainly look at nutrition, light, environment, and mind, and movement is more of a kind of a secondary nature, because most people are either joining gym, part of the gym, getting personal training, seeing me already for personal training, and I kind of don't want to focus on that too much in the group. It can come in as a kind of side, a secondary thing, so it's not forcing the movement and not forcing the fitness and any way of fitness on anybody, because there's quite a lot of different ways that all work. So, in terms of electron donors, we have good quality, healthy food as an electron donor. Light is an electron donor, so getting sunlight during the day and getting darkness at night. Electron does. They make us work correctly. We have environment, okay, so living in the correct environment, living with the correct environment. And again, that comes into nutrition and kind of using the foods that are available in our environment at the right times. The mind's a funny one because it's quite hard to pinpoint the mind down without looking at the factors that are coming in and the factors that we are creating in ourselves. But especially with what we look at in the mind is interoceptive meditation. So you've basically got an interoceptive system within your body, and that's its awareness of itself, if you will. So kind of that's where we look at in terms of the mind. But again, nutrition, light and environment will affect the mind. Electron stealers are basically artificial things, are man-made things, are blue light, our screens, our technology, our Wi-Fi is one of the worst ones. So our non-native electromagnetic fields that are surrounding us, they create problems and we need to limit those. Now, I'm not saying we just get rid of them altogether and go off-grid, because what they do bring is such positive things, but our over-dependency on them is creating these bigger issues. And again, that kind of makes us, the nutrition side of it kind of comes in and plays the same part, that even if your nutrition's on kind of point, that if the other ones aren't there, then all that nutrition that you're pumping into your body and all that good stuff is just not working properly, and it's just not kind of finding its way around the body, and things aren't happening in the way they're meant to. We have what is our circadian rhythm. Now, you may never have heard of circadian rhythm. It's basically an inner clock, and it's kind of based around day-night cycles. That's what it's based around. Sunlight and sunset, and sleeping and being awake, and eating when it's sunny, and eating when it's light, and not eating when it's dark. Basically, there's quite a few different factors that you bridge and bring into that, and that's where we go through in the program. But on the basis of it, eating when it's light, not eating when it's dark. It's that simple, and it's all to do with digestion and how our body works and creating that energy that we want for our body to work. Okay, so that's it. Going on from that circadian rhythm, we look towards the more point on nutrition. One of the biggest things for nutrition for me to make it work is eating within season. If it's not in season, try and avoid it. Okay, so even really good foods, try and eat the seasonal foods, so the foods that should be around. And the great thing about this program is that it's provided there for you. It's providing what foods are in season and the recipes to go with that. Now, I'm not saying that it has to always be that way. If you really fancy something that's out of season but is perfectly healthy, then that's great, and I'm not going to stop that, because there's 7 days in a week, there's around about 3 meals per day. It's quite a lot, not to always kind of stick to that seasonal thing, but it does make a big effect on it, because what we have is all this kind of food that's around us that we can pick. We walk into a supermarket, we've got these massive big places full wall to wall with food. There's no limitation, and we've got to create that limitation. And that's one of the biggest problems, is that because there's no limitation, because everything's around us and everything's available, where do we stop? And we don't know how to stop. Evolutionary, our brains are made to survive, and we need to eat nutrients to survive and get food to survive. The easiest form of energy is kind of like carbs and fats together, and all that bad food is carbs and fats together, and that makes us want more, and then we want more and more because we're in this survival mode. And basically, we need to create or bring back some limitation, and we do that through seasonal eating and create that for ourselves. When it's not in season, we don't eat it. Tell you what's never in season: processed stuff. Never have you ever seen some processed food grow out of the ground or be carved off an animal, if you will. So, seasonal, big part of that, and that is we will push that through and we'll help you know what's seasonal and guide you through that. Finally, we've got our kind of macronutrients. This is our last focus. It's for kind of getting insulted by lots of nutritionists or people who think the nutritionists out there. Macros isn't that important to a diet because if you're getting these electrons from good quality food, and if you're kind of living within this, the circadian rhythm, and you're eating seasonally, then you're probably getting around about the right macros. What we do at the start of a diet is kind of look at eating the right things at the right time of day. And again, seasonality would dictate that there are certain parts you wouldn't eat at certain times of the year, or at certain parts you'd limit at certain times of the year. So when we start the diet and we kind of have this real big kind of push into getting back into this. And part of getting back into that circadian rhythm is eating a certain type of breakfast. All right. So that'll be something we go into, and it's basically a protein breakfast. We avoid the carbohydrates, especially sugary carbohydrates, because basically due to the spikes and all that stuff that you've probably seen and heard about, that before lunchtime you're probably already craving something else. You probably feel full straight after eating, but then you're craving something else not long after. What we're trying to do is kind of almost suppress those hormones so that you don't get that hunger spike coming again, so that you can kind of have a bit more control over that diet, especially in the first few weeks. After that, we can kind of bring it back around. In terms of seasonality, we're looking at the fact that during the summer you would eat fruit because fruit's around. During the winter it's not around and we wouldn't eat it, and that plays into part that whilst it's sunny and hot you would eat more fruit because it works better for your system. During the winter you would start to replace the sugar and the carbs as your main source of energy with fats. Don't get me wrong, there's some carbs that are around in winter, potatoes around, starchy carbs are kind of around, but we would start bringing in more fats instead of the carbs to create that energy. There are just a few hints going into what the program's about. Basically, at the end of the day, we're trying to create a healthier version of yourself, or the healthiest version of yourself. We want you to perform better, okay? So if it's in sport, if it's in fitness, if it's just in life, we want you to perform better. We want you to feel better, okay? So whether that is just the nutrition that's making your gut feel better, or whether it's your mind is feeling better, we want to make that happen, okay? And then finally, a lot of you will be thinking, well, I just want to look good. I just want to look good. And basically, we can make that happen. It'll happen, and it's a side effect of being healthy that you will start looking good. One of the main things, though, about looking good comes back to mind. Looking good is in your mind. Looking good is an opinion, okay? It's an opinion that's kind of pushed through, and everybody's pushing new opinions out of what looks good, and it becomes this socially accepted kind of thing that, yeah, that's what looks good. And you start thinking, well, that's what looks good, but then you start trying to get there, and you maybe get there, but then you don't feel it because you don't really actually know whether you look good or not, and it's all this thing. It's a perception, emotionally based. It's kind of a concept. It's basically in you, okay? So looking good is feeling good, and that will go alongside it. And that's kind of what we're pushing through here, that when you feel good and you perform good and you're healthy, that you will look good as well, okay? You will look good. So that's the optimal adaptation nutrition. There's lots of things in there. I've not gone massively into kind of top things to eat, but check out some of the other stuff that's around, especially on the website, top things to eat. And when you get in this program, we will give you everything that you need to get your nutrition and your health in top order. Okay, guys, so that's the optimal lactation way. Please feel free after watching this video to either email me, send me a message, and we'll get some consultation going and we'll get you on a 6-week program. Okay, guys, love you all, and I'll see you soon.